Hello everyone, I am Dr. Ramesh Kumasa, Assistant Professor in the Department of Civil Engineering at SR University, Warangal. So, in today's lecture, we will discuss one of the most important environmental challenges like pollution. Right. In this lecture, we will focus mainly on pollution, like in terms of air and water pollution, and their causes, its effects, followed by the control measures. So, understanding pollution is essential because sustainable development cannot be achieved without environmental protection. So, with the rapid industrialization, urbanization, population growth, and technological development, environmental pollution has increased significantly, right, across the world. So, human activities continuously releases harmful substances into the environment, so which is affecting the air, water, soil, and ecosystem, right. Finally, it is affecting on human health. So, pollution is not only an environmental issue, but it is also an issue for social, economic, and public health concerns, right? So, it is also affects climate systems, biodiversity, agricultural productivity, water quality, and finally the quality of life, right? So, because of this industrialization and urbanization, the pollutions are increasing in the environment. So the primary pollutions are in terms of air, water, soil, and which is adversely affecting on living organisms. Right. So most of the pollutions which are coming from the human activities, like man-made activities, which are the primary cause for the pollution, like which are disturb the ecological balance and which is affecting on the human health. So environmental pollution, which is one of the major global environmental challenge. So pollution can be defined as an undesirable change in the physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of the environment. Right. So pollution, which is the undesirable change in physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of environment. So which are adversely affecting on living organisms as well as natural resources. Right. So you can also see some of the pollutions in the figure related to air, water, and soil pollution, right? So the key idea is any substance or energy which is causing harmful environmental changes, which is called as pollutant, right? So this is the key idea for the pollutions. So the pollutants are the main cause for the pollution, which is in terms of substance or energy into the environment, right? So because of this, environment is changing, so that pollution is coming to the picture in terms of air and water and soil related. So coming to the pollutants, generally pollution which is occurs when harmful substances which are introduced in the environment, right? So these pollutants which may alter natural environmental conditions, like you can see in terms of air, water, and soil. So if it is exceed the permissible limits, so which will disturb the environment. So these pollutants which alter the natural environmental conditions and disturb the ecological balance, right? So based on this, the pollutants are broadly classified into two categories, right? Pollutants are broadly categorized into the two types. First one is biodegradable pollutants, and the second one is non-biodegradable pollutions, right? So first one is biodegradable, and the second one is non-biodegradable. So biodegradable pollutants, these pollutants can be naturally decomposed by microorganism with the time. Okay, so these can be naturally decomposed with the help of microorganism with over time. Like example, you can see food waste, paper waste, etc. Right? These are belongs to biodegradable pollutants. And next one is Second category, non-biodegradable pollutants. So these pollutants which do not decompose easily and which remains in the environment for a longer period of time, right? These pollutants do not decompose easily and which remains for a longer period of time. Like example, you can see plastics, heavy metals, and radioactive materials. So these are not decomposed easily in the environment and which will stay for longer periods. So which will harm to the environment, right? So non-biodegradable pollutants which are particularly dangerous because they accumulate in the ecosystem and food chains, right? Which is also affecting on the ecosystem as well as a food chain in the environment, right? So the major classification of the pollution you can see from this figure. Environmental pollution, which is classified into several major types depending on the environmental component. Like you can see air pollution which affect the atmospheric quality and human respiration, right? So if air is polluted, which is affecting the atmospheric quality of air and which is also affecting on human respiration system. And second one, water pollution. Water pollution which affects like rivers, lakes, oceans and groundwater systems, right? If water is polluted, so the rivers, lakes, oceans which are also polluted. And next one is related to the soil pollution, so which is affect the agricultural productivity as well as a food safety, okay, which affecting the agriculture as well as a food. And next one is related to the noise pollution. Noise pollution which affects human health and mental well-being, okay, which is directly affecting on human health. Next one is related to the thermal pollution. Thermal pollution which affect the aquatic ecosystem through the temperature rise, right? Thermal means temperature, so which is affecting the aquatic ecosystem because of the rise in the temperature. So the last one is radioactive pollution. So which is nothing but release of radioactive substances in the environment which can cause severe biological damage. Okay, which can cause severe biological damage. So today we will mainly focus on air pollution and water pollution because they are most serious to the environmental problems in a global way. Air pollution. So air pollution which refers to the contamination of atmosphere by harmful gases, smoke, dust and some other particular matter. Okay, so which is negatively affecting the living organisms and environmental systems, right? Like air pollution which is affecting on living organisms and environmental system because of the harmful agents like gases, smoke and dust. So the atmosphere normally contains gases like nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, water vapors, etc., which is available in a balanced proportions, right? So if it is excessive release in terms of pollutants, what will happen? It will disturb the ecosystem balance, right? So that which degrades the quality of air. Okay, if it is releases excessively, so it will degrade the quality of air. So, air pollution has become a major concern, especially in urban areas and industrial areas, because rapid increase in vehicles, industries, fossil fuel consumption, right? So, you can also see from this figure the major pollutants are carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, carbon dioxide, and other particular matter. Coming to the source of air pollution, sources of air pollutions are broadly classified into two types, like natural sources and human-made sources. First one is natural sources and the second one is man-made sources. So among these, transportation, industrial sectors, which are largest contributors in urban environment, right? Because of the urbanization, so transportation and industrial sector which are contributing higher amount of air pollution. So because of rapid urbanization and increasing the energy demand, so which manifest air pollution in worldwide, right? So the natural sources you can see like forest fires, volcanic eruptions, dust storms, etc. In terms of human-made sources, which are from vehicle emissions, industrial emissions, thermal power plants, followed by burning of fossil fuels and agriculture burning, which are related to the human-made activities. So major air pollutants in the environment. Let us now discuss important air pollutants individually. Carbon monoxide, which is produced due to the incomplete combustion of fuels. Right? Carbon monoxide, which are produced because of the incomplete combustion. It reduces oxygen carrying capacity of blood and which is also highly toxic. Right? Which is also affecting on human health. And the next one is sulfur dioxide. So next air pollutant is sulfur dioxide. So sulfur dioxide, which is mainly released from coal combustion and industrial process, right? These are the primary sources for sulfur dioxide. So it contributes to acid rain formation, so that it will affect on environment. Okay, so it will contribute in terms of acid rain formation. And next one, nitrogen oxides. Nitrogen oxides are generated from vehicles and industries. Like because of these vehicles and industries at high combustion temperature, these pollutants contributes to formation of smog and acid rains. Okay, so that environment will be polluted. And next one, particulate matter, so which consists of fine suspended particles that can penetrate deep into lungs, right? So these are the tiny, small suspended particles which are harmful to human beings. And last one is carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide is a major greenhouse gas which are contributing to global warming and climate change. So particular matter which refers to small solid particles which are suspended in a air, right? So these particle contains like dust, smoke, and some other metal particles, right? So, long-term exposure to particular matter which cause respiratory and cardiovascular diseases. So, you can also see from this figure related to the particular matter how it is affecting on human health in terms of respiratory and cardiovascular diseases, right? So, the major sources for particular matter is vehicle exhaust and construction activities, industrial smoke and dust. So based on the particle size, the particular matter is categorized into two types. So you can see particular matter PM10 and PM2.5, which is classified based on the particle size and which is affecting on human health like in terms of respiratory diseases and which is affecting on lung damage and asthma related diseases. These air pollution which affect on human health like especially children and elder people who are more vulnerable to air pollution because their immune and respiratory system are weaker because children and elderly people having lower immunity so that they are easily uh, they are easily weaker in terms of respiratory system because of air pollution, right? So according to global health studies, air pollution is responsible for millions of prematures, like millions of premature deaths every year, right? So air pollution which responsible for billions of premature deaths in every year. So because of respiratory diseases, asthma, lung cancer, eye irritation, cardiovascular disease, and which is affecting on immunity, right? So some other vulnerable groups are children's, elder people, and people with respiratory disorders. Okay. Environmental effects of air pollution. So pollutants may alter the climate patterns and which disturb the ecological balance, as we know, right? So acidic pollutants which damage soil and aquatic ecosystems, right? Acidic pollutants which damage soil and aquatic ecosystem. So greenhouse gases which contributes to rise in global temperature, right? Because of global warming, the rise in global temperature leads to pollution of air, right? So therefore air pollution is both local as well as a global environmental problem, right? So air pollution which is a local as well as a global environmental problem. So you can see from this figure, understand the difference between the with and without air pollution. Okay, like the environmental impacts, like you can see global warming, acidic rain, ozone layer depletion, and which leads to reducing the visibility, damage to the crops and forest, followed by the climate change. Okay, so which is a air pollution is a local as well as a global environmental problem. Smog. Smog is a form of severe air pollution which are formed because of combination of smoke and fog. Okay, smog is a mixture of smoke and fog which are formed due to air pollution. Right. So you can see the types of the smog. One is classical smog and second one is photochemical smog. Photochemical smog, which are forms when sunlight react with the pollutants like nitrogen oxide and hydrocarbons, right? Which are forms from the vehicles. So photochemical smog, which are forms when sunlight react with the pollutants. And smog is common, which are densely, which we can see in the densely populated cities because of the heavy traffic and industrial activities, right? So smog is especially dangerous during the winter season and stagnant atmospheric condition, right? Which is very serious. So the causes are because of the vehicle emissions, industrial pollutants, and because of sunlight reaction. So the effects of smog are reducing the visibility and eye irritation and breathing related problems in the human beings. Acid rain. Acid rain refers to precipitation which containing acidic substance like sulfuric acid, nitric acid. So it is forms when sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxide react with the atmospheric moisture, right? So the main causes for acidic rain are sulfur dioxide emissions and nitrogen oxide emission. Okay, so the effects are which affects on the damage to the buildings and soil acidification, which are harm to aquatic organisms, and which is also effect on forest damage. Okay, so these are effects of acid rain to the environment. And how to control this air pollution. Air pollution which can be controlled through technological, regulatory and social measures, right? Like use of clean fuels, pollution control devices, vehicle emission control, afforestation, renewable energy utilization, public transportation, and industrial emission standards, right? So by following these kind of control measures, we can control air pollution. And apart from these control measures, government also implement environmental laws and air quality monitoring system so that we can reduce pollution levels, right? So that we can reduce pollution levels. So pollution control devices like you can see electrostatic precipitators, scrubbers and filters which are also useful to control air pollution in the environment. So the next one is water pollution. Water pollution is nothing but contamination of water bodies because of releasing of harmful substances in the water, so which are unsafe for human use as well as aquatic life. So water pollution is a combination of water bodies because of releasing the harmful substances which are unsafe for human as well as aquatic life. So these pollutants which alter the physical, chemical, biological properties of water, right? So clean water is essential for drinking, agriculture, industries and ecosystem stability. So therefore, water pollution directly affects the environmental sustainability as well as human survival. Okay, so this is also one of the major issue in the environment. So water bodies affected you can see from the water pollution are rivers, lakes, ocean and groundwater. The sources of water pollution, the primary sources you can see from the domestic sewage, industrial effluents, agriculture runoff, oil spills, plastic waste, mining activity, etc. So these are the major sources of water pollution. And next one is major pollutants related to the water pollutions are first one is chemicals. So first one is chemicals followed by the heavy metals and fertilizers and pathogens. So these are the primary major sources and major pollutants for the water pollution. So from this figure you can also see so the sources of water pollution in the environment. Okay. So these pollutants which can degrade the quality of water and which disturb the aquatic ecosystem. So domestic sewage and industrial waste, untreated domestic sewage which is one of the largest source of water pollution, right? Which is the one of the largest source of water pollution. Sewage which contains organic matter, pathogens and nutrients. So these pollutants which accumulates in aquatic organisms and enter into the food chains through the bioaccumulation. So leading to the damage of water. Okay. So you can see the domestic sewage and industrial effluents and which is affecting on environment in terms of water contamination and oxygen depletion and which are affecting on human health. So next one, agriculture pollution. Agriculture pollution which can occur due to excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides. So rainwater which carries these chemicals into nearby rivers and lakes so that nutrient rich runoff which can cause eutrophication which leads to excessive algae growth. So pesticides and insecticides which can also poison in the aquatic organisms and which contaminates groundwater so that so the agriculture also polluted because of these excessive use of fertilizers and pesticides. So the effects are in terms of water contamination, eutrophication, toxicity to the aquatic life. So the key point from the slide is agriculture runoff, which is one of the major non-point source of pollutants. right? So because of excessive chemical use, which creates serious environmental problem. Eutrophication. Eutrophication is excessive enrichment of water bodies with the nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. So which causes rapid growth of algae. So when algae dies and, decompose, dissolved oxygen levels decreases significantly, right? When algae dies, it will decompose and dissolved oxygen level decreases. So as the dissolved oxygen level decreases, fish and other aquatic organisms will be die, right? So it is affecting on aquatic bodies like aquatic living organisms. So because of fertilizer runoff, sewage discharge, which is affecting on depletion of oxygen, and which is effect of death of aquatic organism, right? Because of deterioration of water quality and bad odor of water. So next one is water pollution. So the effects of water pollution. So the primary health related effects you can see related to the waterborne diseases, cholera, typhoid, and dysentery. So because of water pollution which affect on human health and ecosystem, the contaminated water which affect agriculture, fisheries, and drinking water supply, right? So globally millions of peoples which are still lack of access to safe of drinking water, right? So which is also affecting on environmental effect in terms of death of aquatic organisms, and which is affecting on loss of biodiversity and ecosystem imbalance, followed by the groundwater contamination. So thermal pollution, so which is due to increase in water temperature, which is caused by discharge of hot water from industries and thermal power plants, right? So because of higher water temperature, which reduces dissolved oxygen content and which disturb the aquatic ecosystem, right? So many aquatic organisms which are sensitive to temperature changes and which not survive under the altered thermal conditions, right? So that the aquatic organism will be die, right? So which is directly affecting on aquatic living organism. Marine pollution. Marine pollution which affects oceans and coastal ecosystem because the causes are related to the oil spills, plastic waste, industrial waste, and sewage disposal. So the primary effects are which are harm to the marine life environment and which is contaminate water, which leads to destruction of coral reef, right? So the major concern is plastic pollution in the ocean. So control measures for the water pollution. So water pollution control which requires proper waste management and treatment systems. So industries must treat effluents before discharge into rivers or lakes, right? So protection of water resources, which is essential for sustainable development, right? So these are the some of the control methods for water pollution, like in terms of wastewater treatment, sewage treatment, industrial effluent treatment, and using fertilizers because of less use of fertilizers and proper disposal of waste and following rainwater harvesting methods and with help of public partnership, right? So the important measure is prevent the pollutions like pollutants from the from entering the water body, okay, so that only we can achieve sustainable development goal. Wastewater treatment. So you can see wastewater treatment, which are generally involves three stages: primary treatment, secondary, and tertiary treatment. So in the primary treatment, which removes large suspended solid, and the secondary treatment, which use organisms so that it can decompose organic matter biologically, and the next stage in the tertiary treatment, so purification and disinfection of the matter, okay. So the object is to make treated water safe for the discharge or reuse. So following modern treatment methods and technologies which supports water recycling and resource recovery. Okay. So the role of individuals in pollution control, like in terms of reducing the vehicle usage, conserving the water, avoiding the plastic waste, tree plantation, like in terms of afforestation, waste segregation, recycling, using eco-friendly products, so that we can environmentally protect, so which cannot be achieved through the environment policies. So with the help of public private partnership, with help of by following some environmental policies, we can control this kind of pollution. So public participation is equally important to achieve sustainability goals to controlling the pollution. So government measures for the pollution control. Government also need to improve our measures for the pollution controls by implementing some environmental laws and regulation. So like environmental legislation which are plays a important role in reducing the pollution and protecting the public health, right? So you can see from the slide some of the important measures in terms of environmental laws, by following pollution control goals, by following vehicle emission standards, industrial regulation, and some of the initiation like Swachh Bharat Mission, river cleaning programs. So the main objective for the pollution control is to reduce the environmental pollution and protect the public health. So important points of pollution control are to protect the human health, maintain ecological balance, improving the environmental quality so that we can protect our biodiversity, so which supports the sustainable development. Okay, so pollution which is plays a crucial role, right? So pollution control is essential. So without effective pollution control, environmental degradation will continue increasing, right? And which will affect on future generation. So the controlling of pollution which is important to achieve sustainability. So the summary of this lecture. So in this lecture we discussed about pollution and types of pollution, especially in terms of air and water. So air and water pollution which affect on human health and ecosystems. So the primary sources for air and water pollution are industrialization and urbanization. So air pollution which causes related to human health issues like in terms of respiratory and as well as environmental issues, and water pollution which is more effect on ecosystems and drinking water quality. So pollution control which is essential for achieving the sustainable development. Thank you.